You wake up every day believing you work hard enough to deserve more money, that your dedication, your overtime hours, your sacrifices should translate into financial abundance. But deep down, a voice whispers that maybe you're doing something wrong, that there's a secret the prosperous know that you haven't discovered yet. I am Solomon. I had more gold than any man in history. I built palaces that challenged the heavens. Kings and queens traveled continents just to witness my wealth. And I can tell you a truth that few have the courage to accept. You're not poor because of lack of opportunity. You're poor because your financial mind operates on the wrong principles. For centuries, I wrote proverbs that reveal how true prosperity works. Not through get-rich-quick schemes or market tricks, but through a complete transformation of how you think about money, work, and purpose. Today, I'll share with you 9 verses that won't just change your bank account, but will transform who you are as a person. This isn't another motivational video. It's an encounter with ancient wisdom that separated ordinary men from prosperous men. You'll discover why your finances remain limited, even when you work so hard. You'll understand why some prosper while others, equally hard-working, remain in scarcity. If you're tired of living below your financial potential, if you're ready to embrace a mindset that generates lasting wealth, then this video is for you. But I need to warn you, what I'm about to reveal will require you to abandon old beliefs and embrace a new identity, the identity of someone who prospers with wisdom, integrity, and purpose. If you want to be part of this transformation journey, subscribe to the channel now, because what you're about to learn isn't just information, it's the beginning of a new version of who you can become. Number 1. Wealth obtained by fraud will diminish, but whoever gathers by labor will increase. Have you ever felt that pang in your chest when you saw someone getting rich through paths you knew you couldn't walk? When you observed people building fortunes on lies, manipulations, tax evasion, and a part of you whispered, "Am I a fool for doing things the right way?" I understand that pain. During my years of reign, I saw merchants who cheated in measurements, judges who sold verdicts, builders who used inferior materials while charging for the best. And for a time, they seemed to prosper more than the righteous. But I learned an invisible law that governs wealth. Every coin conquered with dishonesty carries a silent curse. It's like building a mansion on quicksand. It may seem solid for months, even years, but the foundation is doomed from the first brick. Fraudulent wealth is like fire that consumes dry wood. It burns fast, shines bright, but extinguishes, leaving only ashes. Because money obtained without integrity has no roots. It doesn't have the Creator's blessing, which is the only force capable of making prosperity grow and multiply through generations. I remember a merchant I knew. He sold fabrics with cheap threads, but presented them as pure silk. In 2 years, he had the most prosperous shop in the city. Fine clothes, servants, a house that rivaled those of nobles. But when people discovered the fraud, they didn't just lose money, they lost trust. And without trust, no business survives. True wealth is like a tree planted by the waters. It grows slowly, but its roots go so deep that not even storms can bring it down. Every coin earned with honest sweat, every deal closed with transparency, every profit obtained by delivering real value is a root that strengthens. Do you want to know why some prosper for decades while others destroy themselves in a few years? Because true wealth doesn't depend only on how much you earn, but on how you earn it. God looks at the process, not just the result. Let me ask you a question that will change your perspective forever. Would you be able to give up an illicit profit if you were certain that no one would ever find out? Your answer reveals whether you're building a castle or digging your own grave. The prosperity that remains is that which is born from integrity. It may take longer to arrive, but when it comes, it brings something that dirty money never offers: peace to sleep, honor to walk with your head high, and the certainty that you owe nothing to anyone. Change your question. Don't ask, "How can I get rich faster?" Ask, "How can I build wealth that honors God and blesses generations?" The answer will transform not just your bank account, but your soul. Number 2, The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, but the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. How many nights have you spent lying in bed, dreaming of the life you'd like to have, imagining the business you'd open, the book you'd write, the company you'd build? And how many mornings did you wake up and, instead of taking the first step, found an excuse to postpone it another day? This is the silent tragedy of our generation, an epidemic of dreamers who never become doers, people who desire deeply but live in the paralysis of empty intention. I observed this difference throughout my entire reign. The sluggard and the diligent sometimes start with the same dreams, the same vision, even the same opportunities. But there's an invisible line that separates them, the willingness to transform desire into daily discipline. The sluggard lives in the realm of when I have time, when conditions are perfect, when I feel inspired. He confuses planning with procrastination and waits for a magical moment that never comes. His soul craves, but his hands remain empty. The diligent understands a truth that few accept. God doesn't bless intentions, He blesses actions. Diligence isn't working non-stop until exhaustion. It's the art of planting small seeds every day, even when you don't see immediate fruit. Imagine two men who want to dig a well. The sluggard spends weeks choosing the perfect tool, studying the best technique, waiting for the ideal day to start. The diligent takes a simple shovel and digs 3 feet per day. In a month, the sluggard is still planning. The diligent is drinking fresh water. The soul of the diligent is richly supplied because he understands the cycles of prosperity. He knows there's a time to plant and a time to harvest, and that whoever doesn't plant in the proper season will go hungry at harvest time. He doesn't work only when he feels motivated. He works especially when he doesn't feel like it. I knew a young scribe who dreamed of having the richest library in Jerusalem. While others debated which scroll to buy first, he copied 1 verse by hand each day. It seemed little, almost insignificant. But after 5 years, his collection of manuscripts was envied by wise men from distant nations. The difference between wanting and having is a simple word: begin, and continue when beginning is no longer new. Diligence is faithfulness to small gestures that no one sees, but that God always blesses. Stop for a moment and look at your life. Are you desiring, or are you actually planting? Because desiring without acting is like praying without moving your feet. God hears the prayer, but expects you to walk in the direction of the answer. Change today. Choose an action, however small, and do it. Don't wait to feel like it. Don't wait to have time. Don't wait for perfect conditions. The soul of the diligent is richly supplied because it plants before feeling hungry. Prosperity isn't the result of great heroic gestures. It's the silent fruit of small faithfulness repeated day after day. Your soul craves, but your hands decide whether you'll be richly supplied or go hungry. Number 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Have you ever planned your financial life with mathematical perfection, calculated every variable, predicted every scenario, and still watched everything crumble in ways you could never imagine? Or perhaps the opposite. Opportunities arose from impossible places when your logic said there was no way out. This is the tension every human being lives, the illusion that our mind can see all the variables of the future. We're experts at seeing to the next curve in the road, but we pretend we know the entire destination. During my years of reign, I built grandiose projects based on the best human intelligence available. I consulted the brightest sages, analyzed data from dozens of nations, created strategies that seemed foolproof. And I learned that the human mind, however brilliant, is a limited instrument trying to comprehend an infinite universe. Trusting in the Lord doesn't mean abandoning planning or acting without prudence. It means recognizing that there's a superior intelligence orchestrating variables that our mind can't even identify. It's building with wisdom, but surrendering the final result to one who sees the complete picture. Imagine an architect building a bridge. He uses all his expertise to calculate resistance, materials, foundation, but he doesn't control earthquakes, floods, or geological changes that might happen. Wisdom lies in doing the best engineering possible and trusting that greater forces will protect or redirect his work according to a higher purpose. I knew a merchant who lost 3 caravans in storms. By human logic, he should have given up maritime trade. But something inside him whispered that he should try a 4th time, even when all the numbers said it was madness. This 4th journey not only recovered his losses, but opened a trade route that enriched generations of his family. The difference between those who prosper with stability and those who live in constant anxiety isn't just incompetence, but in the ability to let go of control when necessary. It's the wisdom of doing everything within your reach and trusting that what's beyond your reach is in the right hands. Are you trying to carry the weight of controlling results that don't depend only on you? Are you losing sleep because your mind tries to calculate the incalculable? That's not wisdom. That's arrogance disguised as responsibility. Trusting in the Lord with all your heart means working as if everything depended on you, but resting as if everything depended on God. It's the art of giving your maximum in the process and surrendering the result to one who knows every variable in the equation. Change your posture today. Plan with excellence. Work with diligence, but stop trying to be God of your own results. There's a difference between doing your part and trying to do the part that isn't yours. The most solid prosperity I experienced came precisely from moments when I made the best possible planning and had the courage to trust that invisible forces would work in favor of what was truly important. Do you trust God only when everything fails, or from the first brick of your plan? Your answer determines whether you'll build with anxiety or with peace, whether you'll prosper with fear or with faith. The Lord knows roads that your mind would never map. Trust Him, not just when you have no other options, but especially when you think you do. Number 4. There is gold and abundance of pearls, but the lips of knowledge are a precious jewel. How many opportunities have you lost not because of lack of competence, but because you said the wrong thing at the wrong time? How many doors closed because your words built walls instead of bridges? And how many times have you seen someone less qualified prosper simply because they knew how to communicate? We live in an era obsessed with image, degrees, and appearances, but there's a hidden treasure that few recognize: the transformative power of the right words said at the right moment. Your mouth can be your greatest tool for prosperity, or your most efficient self-sabotage machine. During my reign, I received ambassadors from powerful nations, carrying chests of gold and coffers of precious stones. They were riches that impressed the eyes and weighed in the hands. But I discovered that a single wise word in a moment of tension was worth more than entire caravans of treasures. Words have the power of creation and destruction. They open doors that no force could break and close opportunities that not even gold could buy back. A man may have vast knowledge, but if he doesn't know how to communicate it with wisdom, that knowledge dies with him. I remember a young shepherd who was brought to my presence to be judged for a land dispute. He had no lawyer, carried no bribes, knew nothing of the kingdom's complex laws. But when he spoke, his words were so clear, so just, so tempered with wisdom, that he not only won the case but gained the respect of everyone present. He transformed a courtroom into a classroom. The difference between knowledgeable lips and foolish lips isn't in the volume of words, but in their quality. The fool speaks to impress, to dominate, to prove he's right. The wise speaks to clarify, to unite, to add value. One destroys relationships, the other builds them. Does your mouth build wealth or destroy the little you have? Because every word that comes from your lips is an investment or a loss. It plants seeds of trust or distrust, opens paths or creates obstacles, brings people closer or drives them away. Observe how you speak about money, about work, about people, about opportunities. Your words reveal your mindset, and your mindset determines your destiny. Who speaks like a victim attracts victim circumstances. Who speaks like someone prosperous attracts prosperous circumstances. But be careful. I'm not talking about empty speeches or magical affirmations. I'm talking about words that spring from an instructed heart, from a mind that seeks wisdom, from a soul that understands the weight of words. Start today treating your words like jewels. Before speaking, ask yourself, will what I'm about to say add value? Does it build or destroy? Does it bring closer or drive away? Because your mouth is one of the most powerful tools you possess to change your financial reality. Invest time learning to communicate better. Study how great leaders speak, how wise people express themselves, how successful people communicate ideas. Not to copy them, but to develop your own style of wise communication. Remember, you may have all the gold in the world stored in your safe, but if you don't know how to communicate value through your words, that gold will remain useless. Knowledgeable lips are the key that transforms knowledge into influence, wisdom into opportunity, and potential into real prosperity. Your next important conversation could change everything. Make your words jewels so precious that whoever hears them will never forget the treasure that came from your mouth. Number 5. By wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. Are you building on solid foundations or just decorating ruins? It's a hard question, but necessary. Because many people spend their entire lives trying to improve the appearance of their financial situation without ever stopping to build the structure that sustains lasting prosperity. Look around you. How many people do you know who made a lot of money quickly and lost it all in a few years? And how many others who built wealth slowly but created something that crosses generations? The difference isn't in luck, it's in the invisible architecture that sustains their achievements. During the construction of the temple, I learned that there's a divine order in creating anything lasting. First, you establish deep foundations where no one sees. Then, you raise pillars that will support all the weight. Only then come the walls, the finishes, the decoration. Whoever reverses this order builds sandcastles. Wisdom builds because it sees beyond the urgency of the moment. It asks not just what do I want now, but what will be sustainable for decades. Wisdom invests in education before luxury, in relationships before appearance, in systems before immediate results. Understanding establishes because it protects what was built. It's no use building with wisdom if you don't have understanding to maintain. Understanding creates reserves for difficult times, diversifies risks, establishes limits, protects assets from destructive impulses. I knew a merchant who for 20 years saved part of his profits even when everyone said he was missing growth opportunities. When the great drought came and everyone else's businesses failed, he not only survived, but bought his competitors' assets at very low prices. That's understanding. But I also saw wise men who built empires and lost everything for lack of understanding. They knew how to build, but didn't know how to establish. They constructed magnificent houses on ground they didn't know how to protect. Are you decorating ruins or establishing invisible columns? Because most people focus on the visible aspects of prosperity, the car, the house, the clothes, the status, but neglect the invisible structures that sustain all of this. The invisible columns of prosperity are applied knowledge, healthy relationships, solid financial habits, long-term vision, integrity in small decisions, emotional discipline, and faith that sustains in moments of crisis. Start today evaluating your financial life, like an architect would evaluate a construction. Where are your foundations? Are they deep enough? Are your pillars resistant? Do you have protection systems against storms? Stop spending energy decorating a financial life that doesn't have the structure to sustain what you dream of conquering. Invest first in the invisible: your financial education, your quality relationships, your emergency reserves, your investment habits. The prosperity that impresses is what you see, but the prosperity that remains is what you build. And true construction always begins where no one sees, in foundations, in pillars, in the structure that will support everything else. Wisdom to build, understanding to establish. Without these two, you're not constructing a financial house. You're setting up a tent that the first strong wind will knock down. Change your focus. Stop decorating and start building. The invisible columns you establish today will determine whether your prosperity will be a one-year achievement or a generational legacy. Number 6. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, and he who loves abundance will not be satisfied with its income. Let me make you a confession that few rich men have the courage to admit. I loved money. I didn't just desire it, didn't just seek it. I loved it. And I discovered in the most painful way possible that money is a cruel lover who never returns the affection it receives. Perhaps you think this is the speech of someone who has much and lost touch with reality, but it's quite the opposite. It's because I had everything that I can tell you with authority. There's a hole in the human soul that all the gold in the world can't fill. And the more you try to fill it with money, the bigger it gets. When I was young, I believed there was a magic number, an amount that, once reached, would make me feel secure, complete, satisfied. First, I thought it was 1,000 gold coins, then 10,000, then 100,000. With each goal achieved, the feeling of dissatisfaction grew along with the wealth. Money is like salt water for someone who's thirsty. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Because love of money isn't about money. It's about an existential void you're trying to fill with something that wasn't created to fill it. I observed this in every rich man I knew. The most prosperous were often the most anxious. Those who had the most were the ones who most feared losing. Money, which should have brought freedom, became a golden prison where they lived counting bars, protecting safes, and distrusting everyone. There's a fundamental difference between using money and serving money. When you use money, it's a powerful tool to bless, build, protect, create. When you serve money, it becomes a tyrannical master who's never satisfied with your sacrifices. I remember a night when I was in my chambers, surrounded by riches that kings of distant nations envied, carved gold, pure silver, precious stones of every color, and a feeling of emptiness took hold of me. I realized I had traded my soul for treasures that couldn't talk to me, couldn't hug me, had no capacity to return love. Do you want to prosper, or just hide a hole that all the gold in the world can't fill? Because if your pursuit of money is motivated by insecurity, fear, envy, or an attempt to prove your worth, you're destined for a thirst that will never be quenched. Money should be conquered for purpose, not passion. It should be sought to serve something greater than itself, your family, your legacy, your impact on the world, your ability to bless others. When money is a means, it flows. When it's an end, it becomes scarce or corrosive. Examine your relationship with money today. Do you love it or use it? Do you serve it or does it serve you? Your answers will determine whether your prosperity will be a blessing or a disguised curse. There are poor men who are free and rich men who are slaves. The difference isn't in the bank account, but in the heart. Don't let the pursuit of financial security become worship that enslaves your soul. Prosper, yes. Seek abundance, yes. But always remember, money is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. And the only way to have peace with it is to never love it more than you love those for whom you conquer it. The emptiness you feel won't be filled by one more financial conquest. It will be filled when you discover that your identity isn't in what you have, but in who you are. Number 7. He who withholds grain, the people will curse him, but blessing will be upon the head of him who sells it. Do you have knowledge, talents, and gifts stored within you that could transform other people's lives, but you're waiting for the perfect moment to share them? Are you holding your grain out of fear, insecurity, or because you think you're not ready enough yet? In my days, grain was synonymous with survival. Whoever accumulated grain during abundance and refused to sell it during scarcity wasn't seen just as greedy, but as someone who condemned people to hunger. He was cursed not for having, but for withholding what could save lives. Today, the grain you possess isn't kernels in barns. It's the knowledge you've accumulated, the talents you've developed, the experiences you've lived, the solutions you've discovered. And there are people in the world starving for exactly what you have in abundance and are keeping to yourself. The tragedy of our time is that millions of people die with their gifts buried inside them. They wait to feel completely prepared, wait to have perfect credentials, wait for someone to discover them. Meanwhile, the world continues hungry for what they could offer. Withholding out of fear impoverishes the world and impoverishes you in the process. Because true prosperity doesn't come from keeping what you have, but from transforming what you know into value for other people. Your gifts only multiply when they're shared. I knew a young man who had discovered a technique to preserve fruits for months without them rotting. It was valuable knowledge, especially in times of scarcity. But he kept the secret, afraid that others would copy and he'd lose his advantage. Result? He remained poor while tons of fruit rotted throughout the kingdom. Compare this with another man who discovered a better method for forging tools. Instead of hiding, he taught his technique to other blacksmiths, charging for the teaching. In a few years, better tools spread throughout the kingdom, and he became prosperous not just selling tools, but teaching others to make them. The difference is in mindset. One saw knowledge as a finite resource that diminishes when shared. The other saw it as a seed that multiplies when planted. One withheld and remained small. The other shared and became abundant. Are you waiting for the world to discover you, or are you delivering what you have in service? Because the world isn't waiting for you to become perfect. It's waiting for you to start delivering value with what you already know today. Stop underestimating what you have. Stop thinking your knowledge isn't special enough. Stop waiting to feel completely ready. Someone, somewhere, is exactly at the point where you were a few years ago and desperately needs what you've learned since then. Transform your gift into real value for people. Don't keep it waiting for the perfect occasion. Don't hide it out of fear of criticism. Don't withhold it because you think you don't deserve to prosper from what you know. Start small, but start today. Teach what you know. Sell your expertise. Share your experience. Offer your solutions. The world is hungry for authenticity, for practical knowledge, for people who know how to solve real problems. The blessing that will come upon your head isn't just financial. It's the deep satisfaction of knowing your life made a difference, that your gifts didn't die with you, that you contributed to reducing the world's hunger in your area of knowledge. Stop being the merchant who hoards grain while people starve. Be the one who transforms your gifts into bread for the world and prospers by blessing others. Your grain is waiting to feed those who are hungry. Your decision to share or withhold will determine whether you'll be cursed for your greed or blessed for your generosity. Number 8. The prudent sees danger and hides, but the simple pass on and suffer for it. How many times have you ignored clear signs that something wasn't right, pretending that if you didn't look at the problem, it would disappear by itself? How many financial crises have you faced that could have been avoided if you had paid attention to the warnings that appeared months before? There's a cruel difference between wise optimism and dangerous naivety. The wise optimist hopes for the best but prepares for the worst. The naive simply closes his eyes and hopes that magical forces will solve problems that require practical action. During my reign, I learned to read the signs that preceded crises: nervous merchants, changes in weather patterns, political tensions in neighboring nations, alterations in trade flows. While the prudent observed these signs and prepared, the simple continued their routines as if nothing was happening. The prudent isn't a pessimist, he's a realist. He understands that cycles are part of life. There will be times of abundance and times of scarcity, times of growth and times of contraction, moments of opportunity and moments of crisis. And this understanding makes him proactive instead of reactive. I remember a year when all signs indicated there would be a prolonged drought, scarce rains in the right season, different animal behavior, changes in vegetation. The prudent began storing grain and rationing water. The simple said, "God will provide," and continued spending as if nothing would happen. When the drought came, the prudent had what they needed and could even help others. The simple lost everything and blamed God for not preventing the tragedy. But God had sent clear signs. The difference wasn't in divine provision, but in human willingness to see and act. Is God really silent about your financial situation, or have you ignored the warnings? Because signs always precede crises. Expenses growing more than income, debts accumulating, lack of reserves, excessive dependence on a single income source, neglect of planning. Prudence isn't lack of faith. It's faith applied with intelligence. It's trusting that God gave you a mind to think, eyes to see, and wisdom to act. Ignoring danger signs in the name of blind spirituality isn't faith. It's laziness disguised as religiosity. The prudent builds reserves in times of abundance, diversifies income sources, studies economic trends, invests in knowledge, protects assets, not because he lives in fear, but because he understands that preparation is responsibility. Look around you today. What economic, personal, or professional signs are you ignoring? What changes do you need to make before small problems become big crises? What preparations should you be making now for more difficult times? Wisdom isn't in predicting the future with perfection, but in being prepared for multiple scenarios. It's having a plan A, a plan B, and at least the outline of a plan C. Stop confusing faith with irresponsibility. Stop ignoring signs, hoping that miracles will solve what planning could have prevented. Stop passing on when you should hide and prepare. Prudence may not be glamorous, but it's the difference between those who navigate storms and those who shipwreck in them, between those who survive crises and those who are destroyed by them, between those who have reserves when needed and those who need to beg when difficulties come. Be prudent today so you won't be simple tomorrow, because life always offers signs to those willing to see. The question is whether you'll have the courage to act based on what you see, even when it's inconvenient to do so. Number 9. A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Have you ever made perfect plans that were completely destroyed by circumstances you could never predict? And have you ever had plans that failed so providentially that you later think they didn't work out? There's a divine tension between our responsibility to plan and the wisdom to remain flexible to God's redirections. This may be the hardest lesson I learned in my entire journey. You must plan as if everything depended on you, but remain open for God to blow the winds in a completely different direction. And often, that direction is better than anything your mind could imagine. For years, I traced detailed strategies to expand my kingdom, maps drawn with precision, calculated timelines, allocated resources. Some of these plans worked exactly as I imagined. Others failed spectacularly, but the most surprising were those that failed in a way that opened doors to opportunities I didn't even know existed. Planning isn't an attempt to control the future. It's preparation to recognize opportunities when they arise. It's like a navigator who studies maps, prepares provisions, checks instruments, but knows that winds can take him to destinations that weren't even on his original route. I knew a young merchant who planned for months a trip to sell spices in the north. On the eve of departure, his camel got sick. Frustrated, he decided to sell the spices locally. One of the buyers was a foreign ambassador who was so impressed with the quality that he offered a permanent contract much more lucrative than anything he could have achieved in the north. The sick camel wasn't chance, it was redirection, but he could only recognize this because he had plans, prepared products, established quality. The failure of the original plan revealed a better destination. Spiritual flexibility is a sign of mature wisdom. It's the ability to let go of control when you perceive that greater forces are orchestrating something superior to what you could create alone. It's not laziness or lack of direction. It's intelligent humility. Do you want to be guided or just successful in your own way? Because there's a profound difference between conquering what you plan and receiving what God has prepared. One satisfies your ego, the other transforms your destiny. Many of the greatest financial frustrations we experience come from our resistance to divine redirections. We insist on paths that are blocked, force doors that don't want to open, fight against currents that are trying to take us to deeper waters. Learn to read the signs of redirection, opportunities that arise from nowhere, doors that close repeatedly, people who cross your path at strategic moments. Intuitions you can't explain rationally, but that insist on persisting. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or stopping making plans. It means making the best possible plans and remaining sensitive to course corrections that may come in ways you didn't expect. Make your plans with excellence. Trace your path with wisdom. Prepare with diligence. But when the wind blows differently, don't fight against it. Adjust your sails and allow it to take you to destinations your mind could never map. The most extraordinary prosperity I experienced came precisely from moments when my plans failed in a way that opened space for something greater. When I learned to see failures not as defeats, but as redirections. The Lord knows roads that lead to hidden treasures, places where your vocation meets the world's needs in ways that generate unexpected abundance. Destinations where you prosper not just financially, but with purpose, peace, and joy. Trace your path, but allow Him to direct your steps, because the difference between human success and divine blessing lies in the wisdom of knowing when to let go of control and trust in superior navigation. Your next great opportunity may be hidden behind a plan that seems to be failing. Keep your eyes open, your heart flexible, and faith that whoever directs your steps sees a much bigger picture than you can see. Now, you understand why I spent decades writing about wisdom before talking about wealth. Because the transformation you seek doesn't happen only in your bank account. It happens first in your soul, then reflects in everything you touch. Look at your hands at this moment. These same hands that hold the device where you're listening to me are the same ones that will build your new financial reality. But now, they carry something different. They carry the understanding that every coin that passes through them has a purpose greater than just satisfying personal desires. You're no longer the same person who started listening to this conversation. Something changed in how you see money, work, purpose. It's as if a veil has been removed from your eyes, and now you can see connections that were previously invisible, between integrity and prosperity, between generosity and abundance, between faith and planning. This transformation happening inside you is silent but powerful. It's like a seed that was planted in fertile soil. You may not see immediate changes on the surface, but something deep is germinating. Your next financial decisions will be different. Your way of working will be different. Your relationship with money will be different. Because now you know that true prosperity isn't about having more, but about being more. It's not about accumulating treasures that moths corrode, but about building character that generates permanent value. It's not about impressing others with your wealth, but about honoring God with your faithfulness. From today on, when you look at an opportunity for quick gain through questionable means, you'll remember that wealth obtained by fraud will diminish. When you feel lazy or want to postpone important actions, you'll remember that the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. When your mind tries to solve everything alone, you'll remember to trust in the Lord with all your heart. Your words will be more careful, because now you know that knowledgeable lips are precious jewels. Your plans will be more solid, because you understand that with wisdom a house is built. Your heart will be freer, because you understand the difference between using money and being enslaved by it. When you have talents, knowledge, or opportunities, you won't withhold them out of fear, but share them knowing this generates blessings. When you see signs of change or difficulty, you'll be prudent and prepare, instead of ignoring reality. And when your plans don't turn out as expected, you'll trust that the Lord is directing your steps to something better. This is the financial mind that transforms destinies. This is the wisdom that crosses generations. This is the difference between those who build temporary wealth and those who leave an eternal legacy. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if every financial decision you made from now on was filtered through these principles. If every business was conducted with integrity. If every job was performed with diligence. If every plan was surrendered to God in prayer. You wouldn't just be more financially prosperous. You would be a different person. Someone who prospers with peace, who enriches with purpose, who accumulates with wisdom. Someone who uses their prosperity to bless others instead of just satisfying themselves. If this transformation journey is touching something deep within you, If you feel these principles can change not just your finances but your entire life, then you're part of a community that seeks prosperity with purpose. Subscribe to the channel to continue walking with us on this journey of applied wisdom. Because what we talked about today isn't just information, it's revelation. It's not just knowledge, it's transformation. And true transformation happens when you allow eternal truths to reshape your deepest identity. You carry within yourself the potential for prosperity that goes far beyond what your mind can imagine. A prosperity that honors God, blesses people, and leaves a legacy that transcends your own existence. This is the prosperity of the wise. This is the wealth of the righteous. This is the inheritance of those who trust in the Lord.